before Spider-Man, what other superhero movies were there besides Batman? Like, was Spider-Man the pioneer of all these Marvel movies?
Uh, I want to say it was X-Men, actually.
X-Men.
I think X1 was first, right? Yeah, 2000. So, I believe X-Men was first, followed
You beat
shortly.
it by like a year, right?
Yeah. Yeah, Spider-Man was a 2002 film. So X-Men was for sure first.
But I did watch both as a kid,
Yeah.
and I don't know why, but Spider-Man hit me so much harder. I thought it was unbelievable when I saw it.
Me too. Well, I think a lot of that for me had to do with the fact that I already liked Spider-Man because it was my first comic book was Ultimate Spider-Man 16. And then I also loved the 90s Spider-Man show. But yeah, I don't miss the opening credits of Spider-Man at all. Or movies like it. I mean, I think X-Men had them too. But it was a big thing in the late 90s, early 2000s that, the opening credits for movies would last 5 minutes was not unheard of or even rare.
It was completely unnecessarily long.
Absolutely.
That could have just been for the end.
Absolutely.
Save that shit for the end.
The guy who plays Uncle Ben is so good.
I thought the same thing.
Man, it hits me hard every time. To this day, it hits me hard.
Yeah, that was hard to watch. Yeah.
It's rough.
He was really good at playing it as Uncle Ben.
Well, and at the very end...
As any uncle, really.
Well, at the end of his... I want him to be my uncle in real life, but... And it's also like, the Uncle Ben speech... I haven't liked it in more recent versions of Spider-Man. I don't know.
This one felt more genuine, but to not get into too heavy of a topic. So let's rewind back. So in the beginning of the movie, they go on a field trip to, what is it, some sort of lab?
Yeah, pretty much.
So all the students there, I don't know how they appear to you, but to me, they look like if they tried to cast a bunch of... Like, they all look like the main guy from Tokyo Drift. Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift. They all look like they're in their mid-30s.
Yeah, they're all old as dirt.
They don't look like high school kids.
No. I think especially Flash. Like, Flash looks like a grown-ass man.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy how old he looks. And honestly, Toby looks old as hell. Harry could pass as a high schooler, I think.
Yeah, he always had that stoner look.
Yeah, he's got that, like, boyish, those boyish features, I think. He just looks young. I love when he pulls up to the lab. Harry's embarrassed about his dad driving a Rolls Royce. And
Yeah,
it's
what
like,
the hell?
dude, it's like, Harry, you're going about this all wrong. Do you have any idea how much you would pull if you pulled up to that with that thing every day? You'd be unstoppable, man. And also, I have a hard time believing that Harry is afraid to talk to Mary Jane. Mary Jane, who looks like just a girl you would see at the mall, Meanwhile, Harry's like an Abercrombie and Fitch model whose dad drops him off in a Rolls Royce every day. He barely has the confidence to talk to Mary Jane.
He actually mentioned that later in the movie, right?
Yeah, like at one...
you never made a move.
Yeah, and it's like, well, you live next door to her too, so you kind of had an unfair advantage and you still fucked it up. Also, I think we accidentally passed over the introduction of one of the best characters in the franchise, which is Willem Dafoe as Norman Osborn.
Honestly, one of my favorites.
Willem Dafoe in this movie is so good because it feels like he knew it was ridiculous. Like, superhero movies at the time definitely weren't taken seriously, and it feels like he knew that. And he was like, I'm just going to go ham on this. I'm just going to go as crazy as possible. I'm going to I'm going to channel Nicolas Cage. Oh boy, was it a success. He's so good. He's so good as the Green Goblin. He's awesome. Moving on to Osborn Labs, right? He says, you know what? I'm doing it on my own. So he hops in the machine, and when when his lab assistant puts the clamps down on him to hold him in place, he goes, huh, it's cold. Oh,
You have to
man.
respect his determination to make this project work.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I think they called it performance enhancers, which basically
Performance
just sounds like
enhancers.
steroids.
Yeah, well, that it's interesting you say that because they have a graphic on the computer screen of Norman's muscles rather, just like expanding, right? Getting bigger. And it's like they were capable of making that happen on a computer screen with a graphic, but they weren't capable of doing it actually to Willem Dafoe. So Willem Dafoe's body type doesn't change at all. He still looks like Gollum,
Yeah.
you know? But it's like there's some implied strength there because he, jumps out. Well, okay, let's back it up. So he starts seizing up. He's having a seizure. His eyes are rolling back in his head. And his assistant runs in there, and he's genuinely concerned for his buddy, right? He's like, Norman. And Norman, like, opens his eyes like a maniac, grabs him by the throat, and goes, back to formula. Launches him through the window, launches his ass, and just jumps up in this crazy pose. I don't even know. It's like a sumo wrestler pose almost. And then leaps at the camera, and you hear this sound. It's so crazy, man. It's so crazy. And at the same time, I believe at the same time that this is going on, Peter is laying in his bed, and he's having his, like, weird fever dream with skulls floating around him and shit before he actually wakes up the next day to realize that he just miraculously became jacked and no longer needs glasses. Which is kind of nice that they're doing it at the same time. Like, it's like they're parallels of each other. Pete's in pretty good shape in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
He hit the gym.
Yeah, when I saw that, I was like, Jesus Christ.
I would let a radioactive spider bite me, not even to get the powers, just to get a body like that without having to work for it. So, after his first day of school, back as Spider-Man, and I'm sure you know this too, but there's a scene in the cafeteria. Mary Jane's walking to her seat and she slips in some apple juice or some shit. It could be pee. It looked like apple juice, though. She slips and all her food goes in the air. And then Peter catches it all with the tray, right?
Yeah.
He really caught that, Jordy.
Like, that was not intentional?
No, listen. It was intentional. So, when all the food goes up in the air, right? And then Peter catches the food on the tray.
Yeah.
Tobey Maguire really caught the food on the tray. I guess Sam Raimi was determined to have it. It took 156 takes for Harry to finally catch all the food on the tray. Or for Peter to finally catch all the food on the tray.
Are you serious?
I'm dead serious. They put an adhesive on top of it. So it's like, bah, 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 bah. He caught it all. It took 156 takes. Do you know how annoyed I'd be if I had to be on set all day trying to catch food on a tray? That must be impossible. Can you imagine how happy he was once he finally got it?
100 million of the 139 million of their budget went to that scene.
Right, yeah, honestly. The webbing is just gross in this movie. I prefer the web shooters. I don't like that it comes out of his skin.
I was going to bring that up.
Yeah.
That was like kind of a controversy, right?
Yeah. Yeah, well, because that's not how it is. But that's how it is in this movie for whatever reason. But it kind of makes sense in a way because Peter Parker in the comics and in other, interpretations of Peter Parker, he's incredibly smart, right? And, I don't know, very inventive and resourceful. And I feel like this Peter isn't. This Peter really essentially is a giant baby boy. He's honestly not that smart.
He was more of just a photographer in this movie. He's not much of a scientist.
He's more of just a normal dude.
Yeah.
I don't know, but so it's like I'd have a hard time believing that he could come up with not only the compound to make the web, but also the delivery system for that, which are the web shooters. I'd have a hard time believing he could do that. Apparently, he's an incredible seamstress, though, as we learn later in the movie when he makes the Spider-Man suit. Because how the hell? What kind of home ec courses are they given in New York City? That's insane. That dude can sew like a motherfucker. There's the rooftop jumping scene where he realized that he could jump real far. And man, that has not aged well. The CGI has improved so much over the years that looks awful.
Yeah, almost all the CGI in this movie is
it's pretty
not
rough.
good.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. I think it's better when it's the nighttime scenes because it's kind of hard to tell.
Yeah, it looks a lot smoother.
Yeah.
So Macho Man Randy Savage plays as a wrestler named. Everyone signs up to fight this guy to win what, $3,000?
$3,000 for 3 minutes in the ring.
3 minutes.
How many times have we talked about this line of Bonesaws?
I got you for 3 minutes.
3 minutes of playtime. Yeah.
High school you, would you risk your life and your body to face Macho Man Randy Savage Bonesaw for 3 minutes, $3,000?
Well, it depends. Do I have Spider-Man abilities?
Let's say no.
Then no.
Because everybody else doesn't have Spider-Man abilities. You saw what the Flying Dutchman looked like.
His leg's broken.
Like, my leg.
I can't feel my legs.
I can't feel my leg. Dude, Spider-Man, he got his ass beat, man. If it was an actual fair fight, no webs, no nothing, Peter was getting his ass beat.
And when you say a fair fight, you mean a fair fight with a 17-year-old boy and a roided up, muscle-bound, coke-snorting maniac, Randy Savage? You're saying that fair fight?
Scratch that. I mean, no superhuman abilities, nothing.
Even if you got rid of Spider-Man's powers, you'd still have superpowers there because, you've always got Macho Man Randy Savage's superhuman charisma, which I think plays a role.
For sure.
But back to Spider-Man. Peter got his uncle killed, as we all know. Uncle Ben bit the dust. And then, he dons the costume, goes after the guy. I've got to say, that ridiculous fucking costume of his, the first one, that's like airbrushed.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that's rough. The next thing I have here is J. Jonah Jameson is the man, son. There's never been a better casting than J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson. There's also that great line where he's like, sir, I'd really like a job. He goes, a job? There's no job? Meat. I'll send you a turkey for Christmas or some shit.
Calm down and we can talk.
Hell's bells, Trudy! That is final!
You don't speak to me that way!
And say what you want about J. Jonah Jameson. Obviously, he's an asshat, but he defended Peter when the Green Goblin.
He did, right?
Yeah, he didn't. He defended him. He was like, "I don't know who did it. I don't know who takes the pictures. They come in anonymously." It's like he could have given him up. Of course, immediately after that, he completely ruins the moment by then being like, "Spider-Man, I knew you two were in cahoots."
Well, that's just how he is.
I know, yeah.
He's like that on the Spider-Man game as well.
Yeah, he is.
So much propaganda.
Oh, the Spider-Man game. They do such a good job with that. And I'm excited that they brought him back for Spider-Man Far From Home. I'm excited to see where that goes.
So, the attack in Times Square.
Yeah. The Green Goblin sounds like Waluigi.
Wait. Yeah.
He just sounds so ridiculous. Also, I vividly remember that song. It's like, baby, I know you had a bad day.
The Times Square concert,
Yeah.
That's the best talent they got.
But we don't have to mope around.
At that, I'm not a fan of this song. You introduced me to it because I forgot about it. But why couldn't they get... It's the official song of the movie. Why couldn't they get...
Yeah, I forgot about that till you just said that. Man. I think, in summary, I like this movie. And I'm glad that it held up as well as it did. I just wasn't expecting it.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. This is like the perfect movie for kids at the time, I guess.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Because if you compare this to the Hulk, I mean,
the Eric Bana Hulk, yeah.
it's so rough. The Hulk is so rough. But this one, I thought it was perfect for the time in 2002.
This was a good experience. I enjoyed watching it. All right, guys. Thanks for watching our video. And if you're interested in more content, this is actually just a snippet from a larger podcast. It's called the Unnamed Movie Podcast. We're on Apple and most other places where podcasts are listened to.